gives me great pleasure and honor to welcome you all to this year's Zambia Mining and Investment Insaka, a premier platform that continues to bring together government, industry, investors, academia, and development partners to dialogue on the future of mining in Zambia and Africa as a whole. The Zambia Mining and Investment Insaka has quickly grown into one of Africa's most influential mining platforms. Last year's edition, held under the theme Mining Beyond Copper, attracted over 1,500 delegates from across the globe. It successfully set the tone for a new era of dialogue and action in Zambia's mining sector. This year, we build on that momentum. We come together to deepen conversations on how to unlock value from Africa's critical minerals, strengthen regional mineral value chains, and ensure that mining remains a driver of inclusive and sustainable development. Distinguished delegates, over the coming days, you will explore topics such as critical minerals and Africa's industrialization, value addition and beneficiation as tools for economic transformation, sustainable mining practices, and environmental stewardship, policy and investment frameworks that support growth and resilience in the mining sector. I encourage you all to actively participate, share ideas, and collaborate with one another. The solutions to Africa's mining challenges and opportunities lies among us. This is very important. We must no longer be a sleeping giant in terms of the mineral wealth. We must actualize by collaboration. We can no longer be taken for a ride in terms of the value that this continent has. Zambia itself has been mining since the 1900s. The government of the Republic of Zambia under President Hakainde Hichilema remains firmly committed to building a strong mining sector that is transparent, sustainable, and inclusive. Our aim since 2021 has been very clear, especially for copper. 2031, our target is 3 million tons. And that is why we had to make sure that all the brownfield mines are firing in all cylinders, including resuscitating mines like Shaft 28, which is dewatering, and dewatering, as I've just been told, it's above 90%, to make sure that we rush towards the 3 million tons, but also diversifying in other minerals and going beyond cathodes and anodes and blisters and go beyond and invest downstream so that we can see a proliferation of industries based on the giant mining country called Zambia. I want to assure you that these are not mere aspirations. These are steps we are already implementing together with our partners in the private sector and cooperating institutions. As we officially begin the proceedings of this year's Insaka, let us approach the next few days with enthusiasm, curiosity, and optimism. Let us remember that Zambia and Africa stand on the verge of a transformative mining era. The conversations we begin here today will shape the policies, partnerships, and projects that define our future. I urge you to take full advantage of this opportunity to connect, to innovate, and to contribute meaningfully to the growth of Africa's mining landscape. I wish you all a fruitful deliberation and an enriching experience throughout the Insaka. Let us together reaffirm that Zambia's mining sector, and indeed Africa, is open for business, for partnerships, and for progress.
Africa faces similar problems when it comes to the mining sector. And we know this. We know what's happening in our region, across beyond our borders, and for the rest of Africa. I will attempt to highlight some of these issues so that together we can discuss and map the way forward. All of us in this room, we know and we accept that Africa is endowed with vast mineral resources. The world is after these resources. We ourselves in Africa and in this country, we are after these resources. However, there is a disconnect between the resource endowment we have and our economic development. Some people call this the resource paradox. Others refer to this as a resource curse. Why? Well, this is because even though we have minerals, the majority of our citizens still remain poor. But we are not here, friends, to amplify this negativity. We are here to strategize how we can change the status quo and indeed improve our situation. I wanted to show this map of Africa showing our minerals endowment. You know, boasting about our mineral wealth is neither here nor there. We need to boast about what our minerals can do for us in terms of economic development. We know for a fact that in other jurisdictions, the mining sector has contributed significantly to the development of those countries. I'd like to relate a personal experience here. I once worked or lived in a mining town in Western Australia, located in the outback in the goldfields. Now that town had a vibrant local economy with a lot of manufacturing and people or businesses supplying different spare parts and goods and services to the mining sector. And that's exactly what we need to see in our countries, because that alone is not enough. We need manufacturing and create jobs. And as you know, that's the message our president has for all of us. Just to put things in context, if you look at KoBold, 56% of the world's KoBold reserves are found in Africa, particularly the DRC and Zambia. Now, if you look at the price of KoBold, the last time I checked, it's $41,000 per metric ton. That does sound like more money in the treasury. Well, at the moment, maybe not quite, but it just shows the potential that we have from exploiting these minerals. Now, if you look at the uses of KoBold, well, it's used in lithium-ion batteries, in alloys, and can you believe it? Airbags that you find in your car, there is KoBold there. And other uses include drying agents, pigments, varnishes, and I often ask myself this question, well, if you can make these seemingly simple things using KoBold, why are we not doing it? And these are the issues we need to address. How can we add value?
Continuing from where Mr. Chanda left off, we continue to discuss unlocking Africa's mineral wealth and sustainable development. The first question goes to Mr. Muyangwa from ZCCM. I would like to know, or the people would like to know, how ZCCM is positioned to ensure that emerald or other critical minerals, the value addition and beneficiation, how is that going to benefit the Zambians in particular? As we move from the current less than 1 million metric tons, we're going to 3 million metric tons. How are the local people in Zambia going to benefit indirectly or directly from that huge transition from less than 1 million to about 3 million metric tons?
as you might know, currently there are two large players in the emerald sector in Zambia, but we are looking at that opportunity also. In terms of the copper mining industry, the increase from 1 million to 3 million is going to result in a lot of jobs being created. There will also be increased revenue to government, which is quite important because it's the revenue going to government, which then is redistributed from the center back into local communities to provide the country with free education, the road infrastructure, and a lot of other developments which are happening. So it is very important that we work together in terms of increasing the production numbers that the government has set out.
How does an exploration company like KoBold play into this target to 3 million metric tons?
We play further upstream in the value chain, exploring for critical minerals particularly. I'll just probably set the tone a step behind talking about copper, but the biggest risk and the theme of this conference is we in Zambia and probably Africa have an undiversified mining sector. We've almost been overdosed on copper that we're not looking at other minerals, and subsequently the mining value chain is very concentrated with few players. So by having a diversified mining sector, subsequently a diversified mining value chain, we increase our range of capabilities across the board. But it is now known that with the current global supply of copper of 22 million tons, in the next 30 years, the world needs another 22 million tons. That's all the amount of copper that's ever been produced in the history of the world. So how do we play a position as Zambia? How do we position ourselves to get to 3 million tons and get beyond that? Well, we need to explore. Yes. We need to know where our reserves and resources lie, and that's initiated by doing exploration work. The government has taken a step by starting a mapping survey, but you do need the private sector to come in and do meaningful work. In a space like copper, other metals, base metals, precious metals, non-metals like lithium compounds, you need diversified players attracted into Zambia. So yes, traditionally, the copper miners come, but we need expertise in gold, we need expertise in lithium, and how do we attract that? So KoBold stepped in this space as a critical minerals explorer, particularly for copper, lithium, cobalt, and nickel. We are also looking for lithium in southern Zambia, and that work helps unlock and contribute to what will be future discoveries. Now, I have to put a caveat on that exploration work is very hard, deeply scientific. You need technology, and not everything becomes a discovery. So how we spend those exploration dollars matter. Yes. The jurisdiction you enter matters, and you want stability in that regard. But once you unlock that reserve and you take it through to production, then obviously copper will be contributing to the 3 million tons. The PS yesterday is so enthusiastic, he doubled our production. It's actually 300,000 tons, not 600, so just putting some water down there. But the point is we need to do more work. So we have a second exploration project in northwestern Zambia in Mushindamo district. We're prospecting for lithium, but we're also looking in the DRC. We're looking in Angola, we're looking in Botswana. To Professor Chanda's presentation, Africa is still untapped. Where we are stuck is the how. So how do we get the right partners that will do good by this continent, do good by this country, to help us unlock value? There is a decline in head grade. You're seeing more brownfield expansions. There's nothing wrong with that, but there is an impact in how much material you need to move. There's a potential impact in communities and the environment. We still need to do the work to search for tier 1 assets, world-class deposits, and that's what we have in Mingomba. And it means there's more of them. Yes. We tend to treat them like they're sacred cows. You can't find them. It's because we don't do the exploration work. All the historical mines in Zambia, you see the changes in the last 40 years where we stopped exploring, we stopped drilling. We need more companies drilling and unlocking the reserves. The South Americans have done this well. We should learn. We're not reinventing the wheel. How do we get companies exploring and contributing? Right now, the next 3 years globally shows an additional 2 million tons of copper. And those bigger deposits are still sitting in between Chile and Argentina. You're not seeing the African numbers get reported. So we need to improve our reporting.
If you can maybe speak to how the World Bank, or what the World Bank has seen in as far as other African countries, or maybe other companies from maybe South America, which had the same similar situation in Zambia. We are trying to move from less than 3 million to about less than 1 million metric tons to 3 million metric tons. How does the World Bank bring to the table some of the best practices that you've seen around the world, and how can we utilize that? Please speak to that.
The World Bank is very busy helping various governments maximize the benefit from their mining sectors. And I suppose it focuses on three sort of core pillars. One is develop mines responsibly. And you can't benefit from the mining sector if you don't build mines. Secondly, it is to protect your sector, so to mitigate the worst social environmental impacts. And the third is to capture and manage and share the benefits from mining in a way where mining contributes to sustainable long-term positive socioeconomic outcomes. So with those three pillars, it's interesting how different areas have fared. We've also looked at defining the extractive industry's value chain, and we assess various legal and legislative frameworks based on the de jure versus de facto performance. De jure is what is on paper, and de facto is what happens in practice. Many governments have quite good laws or regulations, but the problem has been their enforceability, and that is due to capacity constraints for a number of different reasons. So at the bank, we look at closing those gaps, but ultimately to develop the mining sector and to reach those benefits, you need to attract investment. And from our experience, investors put money into certain countries for certain reasons. And the most prominent and important reason from all the work we've done is mineral potential. So the mineral potential is something outside of a government's control, but all the other things that investors look for, or most of them, are within control of government. And they include things like having a stable and predictable legislative, regulatory, and institutional framework, and also having security of tenure. And also for companies to see how they can actually make profit and take that profit outside of the country, so repatriation.
The Honorable Minister mentioned something about the aerial survey that is currently going on. I would like you to speak to how does that information, when it's readily available, how is that going to help as far as mineral exploration in Zambia is concerned?
The news which is coming actually from the geologists, who are the custodians actually of the knowledge and the technical know-how of minerals, is that first we have done something extraordinary. Then secondly, the money we have spent as the country, which is around 2.2 billion kwacha, or almost $100 million, that actually translates to 1% of the world's total world budget for exploration. So this is not a small feat. However, the data we are also collecting is very high-tech, because we are getting magnetics, we are getting gravity, and then as well as radiometrics. So, and what this just entails in terms of the data is that it can attract credible investors very, very fast, because we are going to take about the real value, and which is high tech. In terms of the strategy on how government should go, it should not wait for the whole entire country to be mapped, and then they say, no, we publish the data. If Western Province has finished, which represents 30% of the country, that data should be available. There should be news now celebrating whatever the discoveries may be there. What it does also, with the investment which the government has done, it will prop up a lot of data. So I think this is the news which is coming. As opposed we got this very, very good information, then there is no access to it. I think we need to have a change in strategy on how we approach it.
Ms. Makayi, you want to contribute, or Mr. Muyangwa also, Muyangwa?
I think our advocacy is with a lot of excitement that this exercise is going on. It's quite important to realize, to his point, that it does attract investment, but it's still just a piece of data. Data that's not looked at is just information on a paper. You still need to do the exploration work, and that takes time. So it's important that even as government does it, as a taxpayer myself, would have been great if the private sector did it,
Yes.
but the government carried it along. It's really important that they quickly release this data. That way, that gap that might have been created, where funds should be going to other areas of government, you have people investing and starting to do the work and getting the right licensing. The DRC has done very well in this space. If you just look at exploration dollars, on top of their production beating 2 million tons, making them third in the world for copper, they have quite a rigorous policy reform they have had on licensing.
Yep.
And this dollars spent in the Congo are still beating Zambia. Yes, they are brothers, they are neighbors, but we can learn from next door. And I think it's important that we tag along with regional players who've done well, where they're attracting serious investment there, and we should be able to meet and match that space. So we're excited. We believe we're very competitive in utilizing data, but there should be many more players in the industry. If you look at Chile alone, I like using Chile, apologies for that, but their copper sector is diversified with almost 28 miners that are publicly reporting their data. Zambia's is still smaller. Maybe public reporting is still much, much fewer. So we need to enforce regulation and compliance. So you see people who are actually doing the work and using the data. So thank you for starting to release batches of the data.
My comment will go a little bit deeper, and it relates to our theme, which is unlocking Africa. So it's going deeper in the sense that it's both as an experience and also it's both as something to look forward to. You know, as a country, because we are having, this is an Insaka, and I'm glad the minister is here so that he can at least get the feedback of what is coming out from the industry. We are all the time in this country talking about the billions that are in the future. Like what Mfikeyi just says, whatever is on the paper, there is nothing. So the serious talk we need to have is what critical component do we need as a catalyst to develop? I'll digress a bit. Everybody eats meat or chicken. You don't see the butcher to be marketing a cow. So what is happening in Zambia is that, and I'm speaking this as the president of the Geological Society of Zambia and on behalf of the geologists, is that we are marketing production and yet we are selling development. I'll say this so that we understand the difference. When we market production, it is where we talk about the cathodes that you need to sell and you get your value. When you sell development, is where you have the attributes that can get you to 3 million tons. So these two are being interchanged. And the people who are missing are the geologists. So the geologists, the institutions, the professionals have not been funded. They are not even promoted. I'm supposed to go to United States next week, but it's difficult to get any funding from the major companies. Like my colleague, my friend here, we talk. It's where you get an outright reject. But what would this institution do? We are flying the aerial surveys. By this time, we should have developed the future, identified, we talked about research from the university, but when a graduate finishes, they still need industry guidance, mentorship. We should have put the young ones here, start looking at the data we've collected. And also they develop their skill set. And by then, all the wealth we're going to talk about will have something backed up because it will be based on scientific data which is proven. Currently, what we are talking about so many future things without a backing, without the actual geology. So this is a story we need to talk about. But besides that, I'll end with this point. Zambia is still very rich, and the diversification, actually, we don't even have to mine. There are so many technologies that are coming in, like biopolymer, where you get to extract bismuth, arsenic from groundwater, and also just reprocessing all those dams and get the other critical minerals that were thrown away.
We're going to open it to the audience if there are any questions that needs to be answered by the panel members here.
Along Great East Road, right from Rufunsa, there is a place called Chitemalesa up to Chipata, to the east, to the left. All that stretch of land, the mountains there, is full of artisanal gold miners. I'm sure it's the highest populated, the presence of gold miners, artisanal. Now, ZCCM-IH was putting up a gold buying center somewhere in Rufunsa. Nicely built structure, well fenced. There are solar water pumps there and tanks. But now it's dormant. What is the problem?
I think that's a very specific situation there where some works have been done and there are some structures which are being awaited. And that process is going to be completed very soon. But what I also wanted to do is also tell you a little bit about what we are doing with the artisanal miners in Mufumbwe, where government has appointed us to aggregate the gold production that's expected from the artisanal miners and small-scale miners there. And to the credit of government, the whole process of formalization is being put in place, where cooperatives have been formed, licenses issued, and once the roads are, we go in and prepare the roads to access these areas. We are going to help these cooperatives to carry out the mining in a safe and secure way, and will provide a formalized outlet for the trading. So that template from Fumbwe will be rolled out to places like Rufunsa that you're talking about. So it won't only be our licensed area where we'll be operating, but we'll be helping out the artisanal miners in Rufunsa. We will also be rolling out this sort of process or project or program to other areas, whether it's Lusangazi, Vupwi, or wherever, but we'll be working hand in hand with the Minister of Mines to effect that. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Mfikeyi Makayi. I'm a journalist from BTN TV. I would like to ask a question regarding Western Province, knowing that there was some survey which was conducted, not for the first time, but I think this is the third or second time, aerial surveys. I would like to know the picture, whether there is something indicating that there's some mineral wealth or oil, especially the fact that we are near Angola or not. And then how do we guard issues of some potential miners who come in the name of, there was one mining company which came as Spirit of the River to do what is called exploration for a very long time. The people were excited, knowing that the region for a long time has been referred to as the poorest region, and they were thinking that something good is going to come out and change the picture of the province. And it's like the story keeps on rotating, but bring the same results. Aerial surveys are being done, people are excited, at the end of the day, nothing is coming up. How different will this be going forward? That is my question for Western Province from BTN TV. Thank you.
Take it. Okay, be brief. Okay, I'll be brief. Thank you very much. I'll be brief. You questioned about the geophysical data, the surveys. Western Province is interesting. And of course, something that may come up will be the issues of, let's say you're doing the diamond, you spoke of a spirit, river of spirit or spirit of river. So diamonds usually have the secular, what we call the secular features, and Western province is covered by sand. So when we use gravity, we are actually able to tell where the diamond pipes may be. But besides that, there are follow-up searches, like you have to go further where you do geochemical survey or analysis. I think in the past, Western Province, there has been those seepages where you test for hydrocarbons, so all that information is there. So what you need to do is just visit the Geological Survey or the digital store, and you can be helped further. Thank you.
Just allow me to come in on that. I think it's also important to contextualize when we say we've flown a survey and we've seen something. I like that he said maybe. Despite this being more of a forum and a discussion, that there is still scientific work that needs to be done. So when you fly a gravity survey, all you're looking at is the density of rocks. It's not going to tell you what minerals are there. We really need to dispel this myth of thinking we can see minerals just by flying a survey. That is incorrect. I know you've put your hand up again. However, we need to manage the perceptions around it because you still need to take this data. There's a lot of interpretation. There's a lot of science behind it, probably generally boring for many people. But surveys are designed by geoscientists, geophysicists, and they're just a certain indication. It's not necessarily a guarantee of what needs to be done. So it's important that academia, the private sector, and whoever's executing these surveys do this work, because I think sometimes in normal conversations, people say we've done this and we know what's there. That's not necessarily true.